So this is the second tutorial for 2C part 1 where we're looking at the formulas and functions. These ones in green are the ones that we've already done because they were nice and basic. Let's start by having a look at another couple simple ones. So we need to have an expiry date for the quote, which will be 7 days after the date. Okay, so today's date is represented by today, and we do that by today bracket bracket, and then we can just add on 7, and that will add on 7 days to today's date. Now let's have a look at the booking reference. Sorry, the quote reference. So the quote reference is in this format: FS year -9. FS is the first letter of the forename, and then the first letter of the surname. Year is the current year, and 0 or 9 is a number representing the current number of the quote, which starts at 1. Okay, so there's quite a lot to do here, so let's decompose it into small parts. Let's start by looking at the first part, which is the first character of the first name. So we'll use left to take the left hand value of Merrick, and we'll just take one character. And if we have a look at that, there we go, we've done that part. Let's now add on the first character of the surname. So we'll have and to concatenate, and left of surname and just the first character. And now we've got MW. So you can see we're starting to build this up bit by bit. Okay, so we've got the first two characters. Now we need year. Year is the current year. So what we're going to do is again concatenate, and we can use the year function of today's date. So year of today's date, and that will give us the year. The next thing is that we need a hyphen. Okay, so again we'll concatenate, and we'll just put in a hyphen. And you can see building this up bit by bit means that we're not making mistakes as we go along, and if we do, we'll know where we've made the mistake. Now the next thing is that we then want this number 9, which can be any value, but it will be the value of the current number of the quote that starts at 1. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a bit here, which will be current quote, and as it starts at 1, we'll start it at 1, and we'll name this current quote. We won't actually be using this till much later when you look at macro, but for now the current quote starts at 1, so we'll just leave that as 1, and all we've got to do now is concatenate onto there the current quote value. And there we go, MW 2016-1. M for Merrick, W for Woodward, 2016 based on the current year, -1 because we're looking at the current number. So let's now have a look at our first of our lookup functions, which is going to be the minimum driver age. Now the minimum driver age is based upon knowing what the vehicle is, and then in this table, once we know what the vehicle is, we can find out what the age is. Now this whole table here is called vehicle rates. So if we can find the vehicle and then return the value from the second column, we will know what the minimum age is for the vehicle. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a VLOOKUP. So we'll build this up. So VLOOKUP. The value that we're going to look up is going to be the type of vehicle. So notice it's picked up the word vehicle for the named range. The table array that we're going to use is going to be this vehicle rates table. And there we go, it's picked up vehicle rates. I could have just typed it in. The index number is which column, and the table that we're using starts here and goes across like that, and it's the second column that we want to return, so we'll put in number 2. Now we want to get an exact match, so we put in false. False means that it will always be an exact match, it won't find the closest match. And there we go, let's have a look. An estate car, is that 21? Yes it is. Let's put in a box van just to see what happens. Oh, if we're going to have a box van, of course we've got to go to Gloucester. And then we can have a box van and it's changed to 25. So we know that that's working. We'll need to put this data back later, but we'll do that when we check later on. So that was our first lookup value. Now what we're going to have a look at is the rate category, the charge rate that we're going to have a look here. Now we need to look at how this is calculated, so we just need to go back a bit now. So if we go up here on our question sheet, it tells us how the penalties are charged. So the total number of penalties are added up to give a total, and we've got to look at what our penalties are. So we've got our conviction points first of all. 0 conviction points give us 0 penalties. So if that was 0, we'd get 0. If that was 1 to 3, we'd get 1 penalty. If that was 4 to 6, we would get 2 penalties. So let's start having a look at that first of all, and try and work out how many penalty points we're going to have before we do anything else. So our penalty points based on this, if we have a look at what value is actually stored under conviction points, remember it's the row number. So at the moment it's showing 3 for 4 to 6, but 4 to 6 actually gives 2. 1 to 3 actually gives 1. So what we need to do is we need to take that value of con points and subtract 1. And what that does at the moment is that tells us how many penalty points there are that need to be applied based on the convictions. It then says that each accident also attracts a penalty point. So let's add to that the number of accidents. So we've now got the conviction points, which was row 3 minus 1, so that gave us 2 penalty points for 4 to 6 conviction points. And we've got the accident point. Now what happens is we've then got our charge rates are determined like this. So 1 to 2 penalties gives us a charge rate of 1, 3 to 4 charge rate of 2, 5 to 6 charge rate of 3. If we were to just take all of this and divide it by 2, we get close to what we're looking for, because here we've got rate category of 1.5. We know that we had 3 points, so it should be charge rate 2. So if we round up whatever we've got in terms of the number of penalty points after we've divided it by 2, so 1 or 2 would give us 1, 3 or 4 would give us 2, and 5 or 6 would give us 3. If we round that up to 0 decimal places, so we'll round up that value to 0 decimal places, then now we get 2 for this. If I change this to 2 accidents, it will still be 2 because it's 4 penalty points divided by 2. If I change that to 3 accidents though, notice how it goes up to 3. If I change this down 1, it goes back down to 2. And if I change this to 0 and this to 1, it goes down to 1. Change this to 0 and hopefully we get 0 there as well. So that was our rate category. We're now going to move on to the really complicated formulae, which is the hire rate per day that we need to work out and the additional drivers. And I'm going to do that in a separate video tutorial for you.